Hello there and welcome. This is our 24 World News Program and these are the headlines. Veteran politician Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as Sri Lanka's new president on Thursday, a day after winning a vote in parliament. President Joe Biden is seeking to expand offshore wind development as part of new climate actions following the collapse of talks on a democratic clean energy spending bill. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi resigned Thursday after efforts to bring the country's fractious parties to heel failed. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said that Moscow's military task in Ukraine now went beyond the eastern Donbass region. Hello again and welcome. I'm your host, Abdurrahim Kashor, and those who are today's top stories. First in our topical stories, a day after winning a vote in parliament, Ranil Wickremesinghe was sworn in as Sri Lanka's new president on Thursday. The six-time Prime Minister succeeded Gotabaya Rajapaksa, who fled the country and resigned from his post last week after mass protests over his management of the economic crisis. In an interview with Russian state media, the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said Moscow's strategy had changed after the West supplied Ukraine with longer-range weapons. His commands came as the US announced it would provide Ukraine with more of these highly precision missiles.
And now, it's not just the People's Republics of Donetsk and Luhansk, but it's also the regions of Kherson and Zaporizhia, and a series of other territories, and this process continues steadily.
In same line of thought, the United States will supply Ukraine with 4 new HIMARS precision artillery systems to counter Russia's military operation, U.S. Defense Minister Lloyd Austin told the press conference at Pentagon.
It will be our 16th drawdown of equipment from DoD inventory since August 2021. It will include 4 more HIMARS advanced rocket systems for a total of 16. The Ukrainians have made excellent use of HIMARS, and you can see the impact on the battlefield.
Russia is resuming supplies of gas via a major pipeline to Europe. The pipeline operator said made concerns across the region that there could be a complete shutdown of gas supplies. Nord Stream 1 closed earlier this month for maintenance and flow restarted today after the completion of works. China's ambassador to the U.S., King John, said that the Beijing wants an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine and the resumption of talks between all the parties involved in the conflict, including United States and NATO. Zhang called on the sides to sit down and calm down to find a way out which would be based on the principles of accommodating each other's legitimate concerns. Mercosur has not allowed Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky to make a speech at his leaders' summit, stage which will take place Thursday in Asunción, announces that Paraguayan rotating presidency.
Mercosur has determined that there was no consensus to be able to have this communication. Therefore, the other Ukrainian side has already been informed that in these circumstances there are no conditions for the Mercosur can talk to the President of Ukraine.
Ukrainian First Lady Olena Zelensky appealed to U.S. lawmakers as part of her visit to U.S. Olena demanded the U.S. to provide more help to her country as it struggles against 5-month-long Russian military operation within the country, saying that weapons could help assure a joint great victory. Osama Ayadi tackled the story in this report.
Ukraine's First Lady Olena Zelenska has been on a visit to the United States as she met both President Joe Biden and U.S. First Lady Jill Biden. American President presented Zelenska with a bouquet of flowers upon her arrival, a sign of the continuous support of the U.S. for the Ukrainian people. In an transparent Capitol address showing the blood-stained baby strollers and small crumpled bodies left by Russian bombardment, Olena Zelenska appealed to U.S. lawmakers Wednesday for more air defense systems to help guard her country's skies.
Help us to stop this terror against Ukrainians. And this will be our joint great victory in the name of life, freedom, and the pursuit of happiness of every person, every family. This is what I'm asking for and what my husband is asking for. Not as a presidential couple, but as parents and children of their parents.
Zelenska's Washington meetings with First Lady Jill Biden, President Joe Biden, and other administration figures have been among her highest-profile events of the war. She spent the first 2 months after the start of the Russian special military operation in late February in seclusion with her 2 children for safety.
I would never want to do it. I am asking for weapons. Weapons that would not be used to wage a war on somebody else's land, but to protect one's home and the right to wake up alive in that home. I'm asking for air defense systems in order for rockets, not to be killed, not to kill children in their strollers.
As a result of the visit of Olena and the repeated demands by Ukrainian government, U.S. Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin stated that the United States will provide 4 new HIMARS precision artillery systems to Ukraine to help repel the Russian military operation.
The United States will continue to push and to lead. You see that yet again in our next new presidential drawdown of weapons and equipment to help Ukraine defend itself, which we'll announce later this week. It will be our 16th drawdown of equipment from DoD inventory since August 2021. It will include 4 more HIMARS advanced rocket systems for a total of 16.
His Ukrainian counterpart had asked Washington the day before to send more of these multiple rocket launchers mounted on light armor, saying that Kyiv had used them to destroy about 30 Russian command stations and arms depots so far. Zelensky repeatedly thanked lawmakers and Biden for the billions of dollars in arms and other support the U.S. has delivered to Ukraine to help it battle Russian forces and warplanes. She called for more anti-air defense to help repel what have been unending Russian missile and airstrikes that have killed countless civilians and leveled some Ukrainian cities.
Calling climate change a clear and present danger to the nation, President Joe Biden said Wednesday he will take actions in the coming weeks on his own to address the climate emergency, just days after influential Democratic Senator crushed hopes for a sweeping legislative package of new environmental programs. Mara Blair.
U.S. Joe Biden made an announcement Wednesday on taking actions in the coming weeks on his own to address the climate emergency. The decision comes during his visit to a former coal-fired power plant in Somerset, Massachusetts, that is shifting to offshore wind manufacturing. It's the embodiment of the transition to clean energy that Biden is seeking.
I come here today with a message. As president, I have a responsibility to act with urgency and resolve when our nation faces clear and present danger. And that's what climate change is about. It is literally, not figuratively, a clear and present danger. The health of our citizens and our communities is literally at stake.
The executive actions Biden will take include new initiatives to bolster the domestic offshore wind industry, as well as the continuation of efforts to help communities cope with soaring temperatures through programs administered by the Federal Emergency Management Agency, Department of Health and Human Services, and other agencies.
So my message today is this. Since Congress is not acting as it should, and these guys here are, but we're not getting many Republican votes, this is an emergency, and I will look at it that way. I said last week, and I'll say it again loud and clear. As president, I'll use my executive powers to combat the climate crisis in the absence of congressional action.
The trip comes as historic temperatures bake Europe and the United States. Temperatures reached 115 degrees Fahrenheit in Portugal as wildfires raged in Spain, France, and Britain on Tuesday, shattered its record for highest temperatures ever registered. Environmental experts welcomed US President Joe Biden's new executive actions to combat climate change.
So far, we haven't seen enough national level effort to majorly get us away from carbon and burning, because those molecules, they're going to be, you can't beat the physics. Every carbon molecule you put into the atmosphere, about half of those are going to be hanging out for 600 years.
The actions that Biden announced did not include a national emergency declaration to address the climate crisis, something that has been sought by activists and Democratic lawmakers after U.S. Senator Joe Manchin last week halted talks on a long-delayed legislative package.
I would just say that although the president didn't make an official declaration today, he made it clear that he believes that, and I do too, that we are in a climate emergency.
White House officials have said the option remains under consideration. Press Secretary Karen Jean-Pierre on Tuesday declined to outline a timetable for a decision aside from saying no such order would be issued this week.
Spain's Prime Minister claimed on Wednesday that, according to the records, more than 500 people died due to the heat wave which hit Spain for nearly 10 days, and everything they were experiencing in terms of devastation as a result of the fires. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi resigned on Thursday after his national unity government fell apart, setting the country on course for an early election. Marim Zian.
Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi submitted his resignation to President Sergio Mattarella on Thursday, paving the way for fresh elections. Draghi's resignation comes after several key parties in his coalition boycotted a confidence vote in the government Wednesday night. Before heading to the presidential palace, the Quirinale, Draghi addressed the lower house of parliament and was given a round of applause.
Buongiorno, tutto grazie. Grazie per questo, grazie per tutto il lavoro fatto.
Good morning. Thank you. Even central bankers have their hearts touched sometimes. Thank you for this, and thanks for all the work we have done together during this time.
The presidential palace said in a statement Mattarella, who accepted the resignation, is scheduled to meet with the speakers of parliament on Thursday afternoon. Last week, Mattarella rejected Draghi's first resignation and asked him to lead more negotiations in the hope of avoiding snap elections. Mayors, union leaders and industrialists have come together to ask Draghi to remain in office, and even citizens signed an online petition asking the outgoing prime minister to stay.
It really isn't the right moment for a government crisis. This should have been the moment to get back on our feet, not the moment to stop. Let's hope everything goes well and the problem will be resolved.
Dubbed Super Mario, the leader had brought political stability to Italy for the last 15 months, which has been crucial in receiving pandemic recovery funds amounting to almost 200 billion euros and supporting Italian households dealing with higher consumer prices. President Mattarella said his government would remain in office to handle current affairs, but did not say exactly what would happen next. However, it is expected that snap elections could take place in September or October.
Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss made the Tory party leadership run off to become the next Prime Minister of Britain. In the latest round of voting, Penny Mordaunt has been knocked out. This comes while Britain faces a difficult economic condition and Prime Minister to be elected in September. Nabil Khazini.
Hasta la vista, baby.
These are the very last words of a Prime Minister expressing his farewell in his own inimitable style. A leave-in session ending with a number of Conservative MPs giving Boris Johnson a standing ovation, except that the former Prime Minister not applauding his successor. It's now the end of a chapter in the British politics. In the meantime, another chapter has already started with a race to lead the UK reaching the final phase.
Mordaunt, 105. Sunak, 137. Truss, 113. Therefore, Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss will be the candidates going forward. to a final ballot of Conservative Party members.
Rishi Sunak and Liz Truss topped the final ballot of MPs, emerging as the final candidates. The pair will have an exhaustive 6-week schedule of hustings and media appearances.
And I'm the person who can go into number 10, I can hit the ground running and I can get things done. And I think that's what colleagues have voted for, and that's what I now want to take to Conservative members around the country.
I believe I'm the only candidate who can do that, and my values are also those of our members, and I've got the experience and the vision to translate those values into a government that delivers for the British people.
Whoever triumphs when the result is announced on September the 5th will inherit some of the most difficult economic conditions in Britain in decades. Inflation is on course to hit 11% annually, growth is stalling, industrial action is on the rise, and the pound is near historic lows against the dollar.
The Pentagon issued a public warnings to Iran on Wednesday after Putin's visit to Tehran and his desire for military cooperation with it. Shortly after a virtual meeting of the Western countries supporting Ukraine, U.S. Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin said that we do not advise Iran to do that. We think it is a really bad idea. The Turkish airstrikes killed 8 tourists in the northern Iraq and wounded over 20. Iraqi Kurdish officials and the Iraqi army said on Wednesday at least 4 missiles struck the resort area of Barak in the Zaku district in the semi-autonomous Kurdish-run region. The district mayor Mushir Mohammed stated, as well as all the casualties were Iraqi citizens.
There was a strike on Zaku Resort. 3 missiles landed in the middle of the resort while we were there. Many were killed and injured. I was injured, but lightly, thank God. We didn't have time to see much because these missiles struck us, so we got into the buses and left the area. There was no time to see much. There were many tourist companies. Only our company was bringing 200 people. There were many people there.
Why? The Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman said at a press briefing in Beijing that the United States should stop plundering Syria's natural resources and damaging the country's economy.
The US action is a bandit one. Presently, 90% of Syrian people live under the poverty line. 2/3 rely on humanitarian aids, and more than a half inaccessible to food security. The US troops have seized Syria's breadbasket regions and oil fields, and plunder Syria's natural resources. It aggravates the humanitarian crisis in Syria.
In Africa, a massive forest fire broke out in the northeastern Tunisian province of Banarou, and the flames came close to the capital of the country. Algeria sent to Tunisia 2 fire helicopters and 26 fire trucks to assist the neighboring country in extinguishing the fires in several areas of the country. According to its foreign ministry, Mali is expelling the spokesman of the UN's peacekeeping force in the country, citing posts he made on Twitter about diplomatic incidents with Ivory Coast that has soured relations with the UN. The government stated that Oliver Salgado, spokesman for the United Nations Stabilization Mission in Mali, MINUSMA, has been given 72 hours to leave over what they consider a provocative and unacceptable post he made on Twitter.
Dans ces genres de situations, l'État doit prendre ses responsabilités parce que quand on est...
In these kinds of situations, the state must take its responsibilities, because when one is the spokesperson of a structure as serious as the MINUSMA, which comes under the United Nations, one must stand, one must carry the word of the appeasement. In such a delicate, difficult context, if a spokesperson starts to speak like an activist, it goes without saying that he's put in the right track, in particular to put him out.
Still
in Africa, Nigeria's All Progressive Congress announces that the former governor of Borno State, Senator Kashim Shettima, is the candidate for the vice presidency in the 2023 general elections. As Shettima stated that they needed to put aside issues of religion and ethnicity.
And I've searched, consulted. I am grateful for your endorsement of Kashim Shettima to be my running mate.
To South America, Colombia's Congress in Bogota opens a new session with the majority of leftist party for the first time in history. The first leftist president-elect, Gustavo Petro, is planning to push for more major police and justice systems reform, intended to combat poverty and inequality. The president-elect will take office on August the 7th.
We wish the next presidential office and the elected president, Gustavo Petro, success in its administration. Our priority is and always will be Colombia. Colombia is and always will be our beloved country.
Protesters gathered across Argentina on Wednesday, marching and blocking highways throughout the country, demanding a universal basic income provider for unemployed workers amid increasing inflation and economic unrest in the South American country. Social organizations also participated and helped organize the nationwide protest.
There are 3 points protesters are demanding: an increase in the minimum pension, an increase in salaries for those below the poverty line, a large public sector, and universal salary for workers in the informal economy, of whom there are more than 7 million in Argentina. These are 3 viable points, only to recover a little of what was stolen from those at the bottom during the last 7 years.
Due to the formal visit to Chile, former Chilean President and the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet, denied any pressure from China to block her report on human rights in the country. She declared a press conference that took place in Lima, the capital.
No hay una carta de las autoridades chinas, no.
The letter from the Chinese authorities does not exist. The truth is that there is a letter from several countries. Just as I receive letters from the countries asking me to publish it, I receive letters from other countries asking me not to publish it, and that's normal. In this regard, I can say that we are still working in the office to update the report.
The World Health Organization will convene the second meeting of a committee that will decide whether the monkeypox outbreak is a public health emergency of international concern, its highest level of alert. The World Health Organization has confirmed that 40,000 cases of monkeypox worldwide, with 5 deaths reported in Africa. Most of the cases reported have been found in Europe, although all the deaths have occurred in Africa. Ending up with sport, Paulo Dibala has completed his sensational switch to Rome, putting pen to paper on a 3-year deal with Jose Mourinho's sides. The Italian capital-based club were in a 3-way tussle with Napoli and Inter Milan to secure the 28-year-old services after he left Juventus as a free agent at the end of the last month. The Argentinian international deal will be until the 2025 and worth $5 million a year, including bonuses at the Stadio Olimpico. He has also had a $17 million release clause inserted into his contract that will become active next summer, according to the Italian news outlet La Repubblica. What a special great signing for Rome and Jose Mourinho. Now let's have a reminder for our main top stories. Veteran politician Ranil Wickremesinghe, who was sworn in as Sri Lanka's new president on Thursday, a day after winning a vote in parliament. President Joe Biden is seeking to expand offshore wind development as part of the new climate actions following the collapse of talks on Democratic clean energy spending bill. Italian Prime Minister Mario Draghi resigned Thursday after efforts to bring the country's fractious parties to heel failed, kicking off a snap election campaign which could bring the hard right to power. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov said on Wednesday that Moscow's military task in Ukraine now went beyond the eastern Donbas region. Thank you so much for being with us. Take care of yourself. Bye-bye.